Okay, so we're deep diving into Aston Villa versus Manchester City from December 16th.
Right.
And you even included some analysis with this one, so clearly it wasn't just another match.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a story here.
For sure.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
We all know Man City are the defending champs.
Of course.
But what's really interesting here is the score line.
Absolutely.
Villa 2.
Yeah.
City 1.
Yeah.
That's not just a win, that's a statement.
Yeah.
Help me understand what made this match so significant.
Yeah, you picked up on it right away. On paper, this looks like a classic David versus Goliath matchup, but the result goes beyond just a single upset. It actually reflects some broader trends that we've been seeing this season, especially with Manchester City. They were already struggling before this match, having lost 9 of their last 12 games across all competitions.
9 losses out of 12. For a team like Man City, that's unheard of. It feels like something deeper is going on here, not just an off day.
Exactly. Yeah. Injuries played a part, of course. Ederson being out meant Ortega was in goal.
Right.
Which is a significant change.
Yeah.
But even more telling is that Pep Guardiola made 6 changes to his usual starting lineup.
Okay.
This wasn't just about covering for absent players. It suggests he was actively searching for solutions.
6 changes. That sounds almost like desperation.
Oh, right.
You know, just trying to shake things up and find a winning formula.
Yeah.
What about Villa's lineup? Were they fielding a particularly strong side?
Yeah, they had a solid lineup with players like Martinez in goal, the midfield duo of Tielemans and Luiz,
Right.
and that dynamic attacking pair of Duran and Rodgers up front.
Okay.
What's interesting is how they approached the game right from the first whistle.
Oh. What were they doing differently?
So within the first minute,
Okay.
Ortega had to make 2 crucial saves. First from Duran, capitalizing on a Jardiol mistake, then a fantastic save from a Torres header.
Wow.
These weren't routine stops.
Yeah.
They were signs of Villa's intent. They were pressing high up the pitch,
Okay.
forcing City into errors right from kickoff.
So it was more than just a couple of good chances. It sounds like Villa had a game plan,
They did.
a way to disrupt City's usual dominance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To understand how effective that game plan was, we need to talk about high pressing,
Okay.
which is essentially a team tactic where players aggressively close down opponents in their own half, trying to win the ball back quickly. This disrupts the opponent's build-up play and forces them into rushed decisions.
I see. So Villa was doing more than just defending deep. They were actively trying to prevent City from even getting their passing game going.
That's right. And it paid off in the 16th minute with a beautiful team goal.
Yeah.
Tielemans with his incredible vision threads, a pass through City's defense.
Okay.
Rodgers, known for his speed and awareness,
Right.
could have taken the shot himself, but instead squares the ball to Duran, who finishes it easily.
Wow.
1-0 to Villa.
I can only imagine the atmosphere at Villa Park at that point.
Oh, yeah.
That goal must have really energized the crowd.
Absolutely.
But from a tactical perspective,
Yeah.
what made that goal so effective? Was it just individual brilliance, or was there more to it?
It was a combination of factors, and this is where Villa's tactical approach really shines.
Okay.
Tielemans' pass wasn't just lucky, it exploited the space behind City's high defensive line.
Right.
Teams that press high often leave that space vulnerable.
Yeah.
And Villa took full advantage. Rodgers' decision to pass rather than shoot
Right.
also highlights a key aspect of their attack.
Okay.
Unselfishness and a focus on creating the best possible scoring opportunity rather than individual glory.
So it wasn't just about individual talent, it was about a coordinated strategy that exploited City's weaknesses.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
It really set the tone for the rest of the match.
I bet.
Yeah. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about Aston Villa's surprising win over Manchester City, a result that seems to highlight some deeper issues that the champs are facing this season.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of the upset, but the more we analyze this match,
Right.
the more it feels like a symptom of something bigger going on with City.
Yeah, that's a keen observation. Let's dive into what needs to change for City to turn things around.
Oh.
As we saw with that first Villa goal, their defense has been uncharacteristically shaky, especially when playing away.
Yeah.
They've conceded far too many goals.
And it's not just about individuals, right? We talked about how Villa's tactics expose some vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
some systemic vulnerabilities in City's defense.
Right.
What could they be doing differently to shore things up at the back?
You're hitting the nail on the head. It's a collective issue.
Okay.
They need to regain that defensive solidity they were known for, that almost impenetrable wall.
Right.
They need to be more compact, more organized, more disciplined in their positioning.
Yeah.
It's about closing down spaces,
Right.
communicating effectively, and reacting quicker to danger.
It almost sounds like they've lost a bit of that defensive edge.
Yeah.
That aggression and focus that made them so dominant.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
And it's not just about defense.
Okay.
Their attack hasn't been as fluid or clinical either. They're still creating chances, but they're not converting them with the same consistency.
It's interesting you say that because I was thinking about Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
He's been a goal-scoring machine for them.
Yes.
But even he hasn't been as prolific lately.
Right.
Do you think teams have figured out how to neutralize him?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Opponents have definitely become more aware of Haaland's threat and are adjusting their tactics accordingly.
Right.
They're marking him more tightly, denying him space, and trying to cut off his supply lines from midfield.
Okay.
City needs to adapt to this, find ways to make their attack less predictable.
I see what you mean. It's like they've become a bit too reliant on Haaland's individual brilliance. And when that's stifled, the whole attack sputters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They need to rediscover that dynamic, intricate passing game that used to unlock defenses with ease.
Right.
It's about movement,
Right.
quick combinations,
Right.
players making runs from midfield, and a constant threat from multiple angles.
So it's not just about having star players.
Right.
It's about having a system that allows those players to flourish collectively.
Yeah.
It's a team game after all.
Precisely. And let's not forget the psychological aspect.
Right.
When a team is used to winning and then they start losing, it can have a significant impact on confidence and morale.
Yeah. Doubt can creep in and suddenly those easy passes aren't so easy anymore.
Exactly.
It becomes a mental hurdle as much as a tactical one.
It does.
What's Pep Guardiola's role in all this? He's considered a tactical genius,
Yeah.
but can he also address the mental side of the game?
Absolutely. He needs to be more than just a tactician.
Yeah.
He needs to be a leader, a motivator, a psychologist. He needs to remind his players of their strengths, rebuild their belief, and foster a positive environment where they feel comfortable taking risks and expressing themselves on the pitch.
It sounds like a tough balancing act.
It is.
He needs to analyze the tactical shortcomings, but also rekindle that spark,
Yeah,
that winning mentality.
for sure.
What about the players themselves?
Yeah.
What role do they play in turning things around?
The players need to take ownership. It's about showing leadership on the pitch,
Okay.
supporting each other,
Yeah.
and pushing themselves to improve individually and collectively.
Right.
They need to rediscover that hunger,
Yeah.
that relentless pursuit of victory that characterized their most successful periods.
So it's a collective effort. The manager sets the tone, but the players need to execute, to believe, and to fight for every inch on the pitch.
That's the essence of a great team. And it's not something you can switch on and off. It needs to be cultivated, nurtured, and constantly reinforced.
We've talked about the challenges and potential solutions.
Yeah.
But what about the future? What does the rest of the season hold for Manchester City? Can they still salvage something from this campaign?
It's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah.
Catching up in the Premier League will be tough, especially with Liverpool playing so consistently well.
Right.
But there's still the Champions League.
Okay.
And as we know, anything can happen in a knockout competition.
Rough.
They've got the talent and experience to make a deep run if they can find their form.
So even if they don't win a trophy, a strong finish to the season is still crucial.
Yeah.
It's about building momentum,
Right.
regaining confidence, and setting the stage for a resurgence next year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about showing they're still contenders,
Right.
that they haven't lost that winning DNA. A strong finish could be the springboard for a dominant run next season.
This match against Villa then becomes even more significant.
Right.
It's not just a loss. It's
Yeah.
a wake-up call,
Absolutely.
a moment of reckoning
Yeah.
that forces them to confront their weaknesses and make some tough decisions.
I think that's a very insightful way to look at it.
Yeah.
This defeat could be a turning point, for better or for worse. It all depends on how they respond.
Right.
Do they crumble under pressure?
Yeah.
Or do they rise to the challenge?
It's almost Shakespearean, isn't it?
It is.
A great team facing adversity,
Yeah.
their fate hanging in the balance.
Absolutely.
What will their legacy be?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of football. It's a story that's constantly unfolding with twists and turns,
Yeah.
heroes and villains, triumphs and heartbreaks.
You mentioned earlier that football is a cyclical sport,
Yeah.
that no team stays on top forever.
Right.
Can you give us some examples of this from football history? Teams that have gone through similar cycles of dominance and decline.
Absolutely. One of the most dramatic examples is AC Milan in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
They were considered one of the greatest club sides of all time,
Wow.
winning multiple Serie A titles and European Cups. But as their key players aged and as other teams adapted to their tactics, they struggled to maintain their dominance. It wasn't just about replacing those star players. It was about evolving their approach to the game, which is always a challenge when you've been so successful with a particular formula.
It's almost like they were victims of their own success.
Right.
The very things that made them great became harder to sustain over time.
Exactly. And then you have Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson. His leadership was a huge factor in their long-term success, not just his tactical acumen, but his ability to build a culture of winning, to motivate and manage players effectively. When he retired, that void was immense. And it's proven incredibly difficult to replicate that same level of sustained success.
So it's not just about tactics or individual brilliance. It's about the whole system, the culture, the leadership, and the ability to adapt to changing circumstances.
Absolutely. And you can see those same elements at play with Manchester City right now. They've built a fantastic system under Pep Guardiola. But as we've seen in this match against Villa, they're facing new challenges. Teams are adapting to their style, and they need to evolve to stay ahead of the curve.
It's like an evolutionary arms race, isn't it? One team innovates, others catch up, and then you need to find the next edge, the next tactical wrinkle to stay ahead of the pack.
That's a great analogy. And that's what makes football so fascinating. It's a constant process of innovation and adaptation. Of pushing boundaries and finding new solutions. And it's never a guarantee of success.
So, for our listener who's following City's journey this season, what should they be looking for? What signs might indicate whether City is heading for a prolonged decline or if this is just a bump in the road?
There are a few key things to watch. First, their transfer activity in the upcoming windows will be crucial. Do they bring in players who fit a clear vision for the future? Or are they just making short-term fixes? Second, keep an eye on their youth development. Can they integrate young players into the squad effectively, ensuring a pipeline of talent for the years to come?
So it's about building for the future, not just trying to patch up the present.
Exactly. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, watch their mentality. Do they show that hunger, that drive to prove themselves, that willingness to adapt and evolve? Or do they become complacent, resting on their past laurels?
Complacency is the enemy of progress, isn't it?
It is.
It's so easy to fall into that trap when you've achieved so much.
It is. And that's why great teams, great organizations are constantly looking for ways to challenge themselves, to push beyond their comfort zones, to never settle for good enough.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
It has.
We've analyzed a single match, but in doing so, we've explored broader themes about the nature of success, the inevitability of cycles, and the importance of adaptation.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been dissecting this fascinating Aston Villa victory over Manchester City. And it's clear this wasn't just any upset.
It wasn't.
It exposed vulnerabilities. It raised questions about City's future and really got us thinking about the cyclical nature of football.
Yes, it's been a great discussion, and I think this match offers a fantastic lens through which to view those broader trends in the sport. No team stays on top forever. We've seen it time and again throughout history.
You mentioned some examples earlier, like AC Milan and Manchester United. For our listener who might not be as familiar with those historical cycles, can we delve into those a bit deeper?
Absolutely.
What were the factors that led to those teams' decline?
So AC Milan, in that golden era we talked about, relied heavily on a specific tactical system and a core group of incredibly talented players. As those players aged and as other teams adapted to their tactics, they struggled to maintain their dominance. It wasn't just about replacing those star players. It was about evolving their approach to the game, which is always a challenge when you've been so successful with a particular formula.
It's almost like they were victims of their own success. The very things that made them great became harder to sustain over time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson.
Right.
His leadership was a huge factor in their long-term success.
Yeah.
Not just his tactical acumen,
Right.
but his ability to build a culture of winning, to motivate and manage players effectively.
Yeah.
When he retired, that void was immense, and it's proven incredibly difficult to replicate that same level of sustained success.
So it's not just about tactics or individual brilliance.
It's not.
It's about the whole system.
Right.
The culture.
Yeah.
The leadership.
Absolutely.
And the ability to adapt to changing circumstances.
And you can see those same elements at play with Manchester City right now. They've built a fantastic system under Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
But as we've seen in this match against Villa, they're facing new challenges.
Yeah.
Teams are adapting to their style, and they need to evolve to stay ahead of the curve.
That's like an evolutionary arms race.
It is.
One team innovates,
Right.
others catch up,
Yeah.
and then you need to find that next edge, the next tactical wrinkle to stay ahead of the pack.
That's a great analogy. And
Yeah.
that's what makes football so fascinating. It's a constant process of innovation and adaptation.
Of pushing boundaries and finding new solutions.
And it's never a guarantee of success.
No, it's not.
So for our listener who's following City's journey this season,
Yeah.
what should they be looking for? What signs might indicate whether City is heading for a prolonged decline or if this is just a bump in the road?
There are a few key things to watch.
Okay.
First, their transfer activity in the upcoming windows will be crucial. Do they bring in players who fit a clear vision for the future?
Okay.
Or are they just making short-term fixes?
Right.
Second, keep an eye on their youth development.
Okay.
Can they integrate young players into the squad effectively,
Right.
ensuring a pipeline of talent for the years to come?
So it's about building for the future, not just trying to patch up the present.
Exactly.
And finally, and perhaps most importantly, watch their mentality.
Yeah.
Do they show that hunger, that drive to prove themselves, that willingness to adapt and evolve?
Right.
Or do they become complacent, resting on their past laurels? Complacency is the enemy of progress.
It is. It's so easy to fall into that trap when you've achieved so much.
It is, and that's why great teams, great organizations are constantly looking for ways to challenge themselves, to push beyond their comfort zones, to never settle for good enough.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
Thank you.
We've analyzed a single match.
We have.
But in doing so, we've explored broader themes about the nature of success,
Yeah.
the inevitability of cycles, and the importance of adaptation.
It's been my pleasure. I always find it fascinating to dissect these moments in football, to see how they reflect larger patterns, and to consider the potential implications for the future.
So listener, as you watch future matches, keep this conversation in mind.
Absolutely.
Don't just focus on the scoreline or the individual brilliance.
Right.
Look for those subtle signs.
Yeah.
Those shifts in tactics and mentality that might reveal which direction a team is heading.
For sure.
Who knows? You might even be able to predict the next great dynasty in the making or witness the beginning of a spectacular comeback.
That's the beauty of football. It's a sport that's constantly evolving, full of surprises and unexpected twists. And that's what makes it so compelling to watch and to analyze.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for sharing your insights and expertise with us.
Of course. Anytime.
And to our listener, thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep thinking, keep learning, and stay curious about the beautiful game.